Let's bring in, for some analysis, Professor Michael Wesley. He's the Deputy Vice-Chancellor International at the University of Melbourne. Professor Wesley, thanks as always. The Prime Minister's saying he's spoken with the Indonesian leader about excluding Putin from the G20. It seems an obvious move, doesn't it?
Well, it may seem obvious to Australia, but I'm not sure it's that obvious to Indonesia. This is a bit of a nightmare for Indonesia, to be honest. Indonesia tends not to take strong positions on issues such as this, and I think Jakarta will be in a bit of in a bit of a lather as to what to do about this. Whether or not the Prime Minister's pressure on Indonesia is effective or not, I'm not sure. I think at this stage it is likely that Indonesia will not exclude Russia from this meeting. It could be a very tense meeting if Putin is there.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Amid suggestions of and proof, not just suggestions, proof of war crimes being undertaken by Russian forces, and then so you move from Indonesia to, say, the Indian response. I know the government wants China to strengthen its repudiation of Putin, but India hasn't done so either, Michael, and this is one of our quadrilateral security dialogue partners here.
Yeah, that's right. And a couple of things on that. Firstly, the Prime Minister used very nuanced language when he reassured the media that he and Prime Minister Modi had talked about the situation in Ukraine in their virtual summit on Monday. But you're absolutely right. I think the situation in Ukraine really does start to illustrate some of the limitations of the Quad as a serious strategic grouping. The variant between India and the other three Quad members on Ukraine show that it will remain a relatively weak grouping in terms of really coming together and delivering some strategic unity between those four countries. And so I think it must give us pause about how optimistic we are about the Quad delivering what some would hope it delivers.
Yeah, indeed. And I guess this context of the Ukrainian conflict and the subsequent debate about what India says and how comes in the context of a broader and long-term, it's not a new thing, it's a long-term foreign policy approach of independence, really, from the Indian foreign policy establishment.
Absolutely. Look, we do talk up the fact that India is a fellow democracy, and I think we would be mistaken for just assuming that would mean that we would see eye to eye on many issues. As you say, Kieran, India has a very long tradition of either non-alignment or, as it calls it now, strategic autonomy. It does not want to explicitly align with or against any particular countries, and it's not only on Ukraine. It's also on the situation in Myanmar. When the Indian Foreign Minister came and spoke at the University of Melbourne last month, he was asked in particular why hasn't India been more forthright in condemning the coup in Myanmar, and he was quite clear in his answer. He said because India has a complicated relationship with Myanmar, they share a mutual border, they share an interest in controlling movement, particularly of militants across that border. And so again, I think here is another situation where India makes its foreign policy and its foreign positioning very much in accordance with its own interests, and will diverge from Australia, the United States, and others where it sees it being in its interest to do so.